6 in the morning. The lights have been on all night because the lights on death row never turn off. You do not wake up. You stop pretending to sleep. James has been lying on his bunk staring at the ceiling for 3 hours. He is 42 years old. He has been on death row for 15 years. And 6 months ago, his appeals ran out. His execution date is set for November 18th. That is 173 days from now. James knows exactly how many days because he counts them every single morning. Some men on death row have no execution date. They wait in uncertainty. James knows when he will die. And he is not sure which is worse. James sits up on his bunk. His cell is 6 feet by 9 feet. Concrete walls. Concrete floor. Metal bed bolted to the wall. Metal desk bolted to the floor. Stainless steel toilet and sink combination. No privacy. A guard walks past every 15 minutes, 24 hours a day. They look through the small window in the door and mark a sheet confirming you are still breathing. James has a calendar on his wall. November 18th is circled in red. He does not know why he circles it. He knows the date. But something about seeing it marked makes it real. 173 days. That is 24 weeks. That is 5 months and 22 days. That is 4,152 hours. James has already done the math. 2,500 men on death row in America right now. Some have execution dates. Some have been waiting 30 years with no date. All of them live in 6x9 cells knowing they will die there. If you want the investigation into what that waiting actually does to a human mind, subscribe now. Because this is the part nobody talks about. The years before the needle. Breakfast comes through a slot in the door. A tray. Powdered eggs. 2 pieces of white bread. A small carton of milk. A plastic spork. You have 20 minutes to eat before they collect the tray. James eats slowly. Not because he is savoring it. Because eating gives him something to do. Something to measure time with. After breakfast, there's nothing until lunch. 5 hours. In a 6x9 cell. Alone. Some death row facilities allow an hour of recreation. Some allow 2 hours. Some allow none. James gets 1 hour a day in a concrete cage slightly larger than his cell. No weights. No basketball. Just concrete and chain link and sky. Today is not a rec day. Today is 23 hours in the cell. 3 cells down from James is Robert. Robert is 58 years old. He has been on death row for 22 years. He has no execution date. His state has an unofficial moratorium on executions while the courts review lethal injection protocols. Robert has been in this limbo for 6 years. No execution scheduled. But no release possible. Life in a 6x9 cell waiting for a government to decide if they are going to kill him or let him die of old age in this cage. Robert does not have a calendar on his wall. He used to. He took it down after year 10 when he realized that marking days without knowing an endpoint is worse than counting down. At least James knows. Robert just waits. Mail call happens once a day. A guard walks the tier and calls out names. If your name is called, you get mail. If your name is not called, you get nothing. James has not received mail in 4 months. His family stopped writing after his final appeal was denied. Not because they stopped caring. Because there is nothing left to say. What do you write to someone who is going to be executed in 5 months? Robert gets mail twice a week from a pen pal he has never met. A woman in Oregon who writes to death row inmates. She sends him articles about books and movies. Things happening in a world he will never see again. Robert reads every word 3 times. Kevin is 34 years old. He has been on death row for 3 years. He was convicted of murdering a store clerk during a robbery. Kevin has always maintained he was not there. That the witness identified the wrong person. That the DNA evidence was contaminated. That his public defender was overworked and missed critical evidence. 2 months ago, a journalism project found new evidence. A surveillance video from a gas station 2 miles from the murder showing Kevin buying cigarettes at the exact time the murder occurred. The timestamp is clear. Kevin could not have been in both places. His lawyers are filing an emergency appeal. Kevin does not know if it will work. He does not know if anyone will listen. He just knows he is on death row for murder he did not commit. And time is running out. On death row, you learn to recognize sounds. The sound of keys means someone is coming. It could be a guard doing a routine check. It could be mail. It could be a visitor. Or it could be the escort team coming to take you to the execution chamber. James hears keys 3 cells down. His body tenses. He cannot help it. Even though he knows his date is months away, the sound of keys still makes his heart race. The keys stop at Robert's cell. Robert is being taken to a legal visit. His attorney is here. Robert has not seen his attorney in 8 months. Something must have happened. New evidence. A new appeal. Or the state setting an execution date. Stop and answer this honestly. If you were on death row and you had a choice, would you rather have an execution date and know when you will die, or have no date and spend decades not knowing if or when it will happen? James has a date. 173 days. He counts down every morning. Robert has no date. 22 years of waiting with no end in sight. Kevin might be innocent but might die anyway. Which version of death row would break you slower? Comment your choice. Because all 3 of these men are real. And all 3 are living different versions of the same hell. Robert sits across from his attorney in a small concrete room. A thick plexiglass barrier separates them. They talk through a phone. The attorney has news. The state has filed paperwork to lift the execution moratorium. If the courts approve it, Robert could have an execution date within 6 months. Robert asks what his chances are on appeal. The attorney says slim. They have exhausted almost everything. There is one last motion they can file. A Hail Mary. But the attorney does not think it will work. Robert asks how long he has if the moratorium is lifted. The attorney says maybe a year. Maybe 2. Robert has been on death row for 22 years. And now he might have 1 year left. He goes back to his cell and lies on his bunk and stares at the ceiling. We are 4 hours into a 24-hour cycle, and you have met 3 men. One knows when he will die. One just found out he might die soon. One might be innocent. None of them are free. All of them are waiting. If investigations into what the death penalty actually does to human beings matter to you, subscribe now. Because the psychological torture is only beginning. The hour before lunch is the longest hour on death row. You have already been awake for 5 hours. You have done nothing. You will do nothing. You sit on your bunk, or you sit at your desk, or you lie down and stare at the ceiling. James writes letters he will never send. Letters to his daughter who does not visit anymore. Letters to his ex-wife who remarried. Letters to the victim's family apologizing. He writes them on notebook paper, and then he tears them up and flushes them down the toilet. Because what is the point? In 173 days, he will be dead and none of these letters will matter. Kevin is writing a different kind of letter. He is writing to the journalism professor who found the surveillance video. He is asking if there is anything else they can find. Any other evidence. Any other witness. He is writing with the kind of desperate hope that only an innocent man on death row can have. Because Kevin knows that the system does not care if you are innocent. The system cares if you can prove it. And proving it requires money for investigators and expert witnesses and lawyers who have time. Kevin has a public defender who is managing 80 cases. Kevin has no money. Kevin has a surveillance video and hope. And hope on death row is the most dangerous thing you can have. Lunch comes through the slot. A sandwich. An apple. A bag of chips. A carton of juice. 20 minutes to eat. James eats in silence. Robert does not eat. He is thinking about what his attorney said. 1 year maybe. After 22 years of waiting, 1 year feels both impossibly short and unbearably long. Kevin eats his apple and saves his sandwich for later. He has learned to ration food. Not because he is hungry. Because eating gives you something to do. And on death row, anything that fills time is valuable. After lunch, the trays are collected. And the afternoon begins. 6 more hours until dinner. 6 more hours in a 6x9 cell with nothing but your thoughts and your calendar and the knowledge of what is coming. In some death row facilities, you can see the execution chamber from your cell. In others, it is in a different building. At James's facility, the chamber is at the end of the tier. You cannot see it from the cells, but you know it is there. Every time someone is executed, you hear it. Not the execution itself, but the preparation, the extra guards, the warden walking the tier, The chaplain being escorted in. The witnesses arriving. You hear all of it. And you know that in a few hours, one of the men on your tier will be dead. James has been on this tier during 3 executions. He knew all 3 men. Not well. You do not make friends on death row. But he knew their names. And now they are gone. And in 173 days, it will be his turn. Marcus is a correctional officer. He has worked death row for 8 years. He walks the tier 4 times a shift. He looks through the small window in each door. He confirms each inmate is breathing. He marks the sheet. He moves to the next cell. Marcus knows all of their names. He knows their crimes. He knows their execution dates. He knows which ones have family that visits and which ones have nobody. Marcus has been present for 12 executions. He stands in the chamber. He watches. It is part of his job. After the first 3, he started having nightmares. After the first 5, he started drinking. After the first 8, he requested a transfer. His request was denied. Not enough staff. Someone has to work death row. And Marcus has seniority. So he stays. And he counts down other men's days. Death row inmates are allowed phone calls. The rules vary by state. Some allow 1 call a week. Some allow 1 call a month. Some allow calls only to attorneys. James is allowed 1 15-minute call per week to an approved number. He has his daughter's number on the list. He has not called in 2 months. Because the last time he called, she cried the entire 15 minutes and then hung up without saying goodbye. He does not want to put her through that again. He does not want to put himself through that again. So he sits in his cell during phone time and he listens to other men talk to their families and he wonders if it is better to stay connected or to let go. 8 hours into the 24-hour cycle. James is counting down to an execution in 173 days. Robert just found out his moratorium might end. Kevin is waiting to see if new evidence will save him. Marcus is guarding men he will watch die. If the human cost of the death penalty matters to you, subscribe. Because the worst part is not the execution. It is the waiting. Kevin gets word from his attorney. The emergency appeal based on the surveillance video has been filed. The court will review it. It could take 6 months. It could take a year. It could be denied in a week. Kevin does not know. What Kevin knows is that he is on death row for a crime he did not commit, and the only thing standing between him and the execution chamber is a video timestamp and a court that might not care. The Innocence Project estimates that 4% of people on death row are innocent. 4%. That is 1 in 25. There are 2,500 men on death row in America. That means 100 men are innocent. Kevin might be one of them. Or he might not be. The court will decide. And Kevin will wait. James is escorted to the rec cage. Hands cuffed behind his back. Leg irons. 2 guards. The rec cage is 10 feet by 12 feet. Concrete floor. Chain link walls and ceiling. You can see the sky. You can feel the sun if it is shining. But you are still in a cage. James walks in circles. Some men do push-ups. Some men just stand and look at the sky. James walks. He has 1 hour. After this, it is back to the cell. 18 more hours until the next rec period. James walks and he thinks about his daughter, and he thinks about 173 days, and he thinks about the sky, and how much longer he will see it. Dinner comes through the slot. Meatloaf. Mashed potatoes. Green beans. White bread. A carton of milk. This is the best meal of the day, on death row. Not because it tastes good. Because it is warm. And because after dinner, there are only 5 hours until lights out. Lights out does not mean the lights turn off. It means you are required to be on your bunk. The lights stay on. They never turn off. James eats his meatloaf. Robert eats half of his and saves the rest. Kevin eats everything. Marcus walks the tier during dinner and watches 40 men eat alone in 40 separate cells and wonders how any of this makes society safer. Visiting hours on death row are limited. Some facilities allow contact visits. Some allow only non-contact visits through Plexiglass. Some allow visits only on certain days. James had a visitor 2 years ago. His mother. She was 78 years old. She told him she forgave him. She told him she loved him. She told him she did not think she could come back. It was too hard. James understood. He has not put anyone on his visitor list since. Robert has a visitor today. The pen pal from Oregon. They have been writing for 6 years. This is her first visit. She has driven 900 miles to sit across from him for 2 hours. They talk through the phone. And for 2 hours, Robert feels like a human being instead of a number waiting to die. Here is the question you need to answer. Kevin might be innocent. The surveillance video shows he was 2 miles away when the murder happened. But his appeal might be denied anyway because the courts have rules about new evidence and timing and procedure. If you were on the jury that convicted him, and you saw this video now, would you demand he be released immediately? Or would you say the process has to run its course even if it takes another year while he sits on death row? Comment your answer. Because this is not theoretical. Innocent people are on death row right now. And the system moves slowly. Executions in most states happen at night. Usually between 6 p.m. and midnight. Usually on Wednesdays or Thursdays. The tier goes quiet during execution hours. Even if there is no execution scheduled. Because everyone knows what time it is. Everyone knows that in another state, in another facility, a man is being walked from his cell to the chamber. His last meal has been eaten. His last words have been said. His witnesses are seated. And the process is beginning. James knows that in 173 days, it will be a Wednesday, 6 p.m. And he will be that man. Walking that walk. Saying those words. And then nothing. Kevin gets mail. It is from his attorney. The court has agreed to an expedited hearing on the surveillance video evidence. The hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. The judge will review the video. The judge will hear arguments. And the judge will decide if Kevin gets a new trial or if he stays on death row. Kevin reads the letter 3 times. He does not let himself hope. Hope on death row is dangerous. But he cannot stop the feeling. The feeling that maybe, this is real. Maybe he will get out. Maybe he will not die here. He lies on his bunk and stares at the ceiling and allows himself, for the first time in 3 years, to imagine walking out of this place alive. Lights out is at 9 p.m. You are required to be on your bunk. No sitting at the desk. No standing at the door. On your bunk. The lights stay on. They never turn off. You sleep in full fluorescent brightness. Some men cover their eyes with a towel. Some men take the thin mattress and fold it over their face. James lies on his back and stares at the ceiling. The same ceiling he has stared at for 15 years. The same ceiling he will stare at for 172 more days. And then he will be taken to another room. And he will stare at a different ceiling. And that will be the last ceiling he ever sees. Robert is lying on his bunk thinking about what his attorney told him. 1 year maybe if the moratorium is lifted. After 22 years, Robert is not sure he can survive 1 more year of this. He is 58 years old. His body is failing. His mind is failing. He has been in a 6x9 cell for 2 decades. He has a choice that no one talks about. He can keep fighting. Keep filing appeals. Keep waiting. Or he can stop. He can waive his appeals. He can volunteer for execution. Get it over with. Some men do this. They call it giving up. Robert calls it choosing your own end. He has not decided yet. But he is thinking about it. Marcus's shift ends at 11 p.m. He walks out of the prison. He gets in his car. He drives home to his wife and his 2 kids. He takes a shower that lasts 30 minutes because he feels like the prison is on his skin. He drinks 3 beers. He sits in his garage and stares at the wall. His wife asks him if he is okay. He says yes. He is lying. He is not okay. He has not been okay since his 3rd execution. He has 9 more years until he can retire with full pension. 9 more years of walking that tier. 9 more years of watching men wait to die. 9 more years of being present when they do. He does not know if he can make it. But he does not know what else to do. Midnight. The day is over. And the next day begins. There is no difference on death row. The days are identical. 6 a.m. wake up. Breakfast. Nothing. Lunch. Nothing. Dinner. Lights out. Repeat. 4 years. 4 decades. Until your appeals run out. Until the state sets a date. Until the day comes. James has 172 days left. Robert might have 1 year. Kevin might get out or he might die for a crime he did not commit. And tomorrow, all of them will wake up in the same 6x9 cells. And they will do it all again. Because this is death row. And nothing changes until everything ends. At 11:58 p.m., in another state, an execution was carried out. A man was pronounced dead. He had been on death row for 19 years. His name was David. He had exhausted all appeals. He had eaten his last meal at 4 p.m. Steak, mashed potatoes, apple pie. He had made his last phone call at 5 p.m. to his sister. He had written his last words on a piece of paper. The warden read them aloud to the witnesses. David said he was sorry, that he wished he could take it back, that he hoped the victim's family could find peace. And then the chemicals were administered, and David stopped breathing, and his body was removed, and his cell was cleaned. And tomorrow, another man will move into that cell, and the cycle continues. Time moves differently on death row. When you have an execution date like James, every day is a countdown. Every morning you wake up, and you have one fewer day. Time speeds up. When you have no date like Robert, time stops. Days blend into weeks, blend into years, blend into decades. You lose track. You forget what month it is. Time disappears. And when you might be innocent like Kevin, time becomes the enemy. Every day you are still here is another day stolen. Another day you could have been free. Death row does not just take your life. It takes your time. And time is all you have left. 2,500 men are on death row in America right now, living this exact 24-hour cycle. Some have dates. Some do not. Some are innocent. All of them are waiting. If investigations that show you what the death penalty actually does to human beings matter to you, if the question of whether this is justice or torture matters to you, subscribe right now. And answer this. If you were falsely convicted and sent to death row, how long could you survive the waiting before your mind broke? Comment your honest answer. Because for Kevin, it has been 3 years. And he is running out of time.